Okay, get ready, because today we are going to look at a conspiracy theory. It's so out there, it might just make your head spin. We're talking about the belief that lizard people, they're lurking beneath the streets of L.A., and somehow they're pulling the strings in U.S. elections.
Sounds crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here for. We're using this deep dive into the lizard election, a tale of democracy in the catacombs. That's what we're looking at today, to kind of explore how even the most bizarre theories can reflect real anxieties about power, control, and who's really calling the shots.
What's interesting about this kind of thing is that they often tap into very primal fears. The idea of a hidden, powerful entity, controlling events from the shadows. That's a recurring thing across cultures and throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
Think about ancient myths and legends. They're full of tales of gods and monsters and secret societies that are influencing the fate of humanity.
So are you saying this lizard people thing, it isn't as outlandish as it first seems? There's actually some historical precedent.
Yeah, absolutely. These narratives, they stick around because they offer a simple explanation for really complex events. When you're faced with things that seem chaotic or just don't make sense, it's comforting to think that there's something hidden at work, even if it's a reptilian overlord.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics. According to this, these lizard people, they aren't just hanging out underground. They're holding these elaborate election rituals every 4 years, where the presidential candidates supposedly go down into the catacombs to plead their case before this council of lizard elders.
Wow.
Sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
This idea of a secret society that controls world events. From behind the scenes, it's a common thing in conspiracy theories. It speaks to this deep-seated distrust of authority and the belief that the true centers of power are hidden, from public view. You see this in everything from the Freemasons to the Illuminati to, even reptilian humanoids living beneath Los Angeles.
Speaking of the Illuminati, they play a pretty big role in this whole thing. The essay says they're like a PR arm for the reptilian overlords, creating distractions and manipulating information, to keep the public in the dark.
Where it's
illegal spin doctors.
The Illuminati is a particularly interesting example of how historical fact can get distorted and amplified, in these conspiracy theories. The real Illuminati, they were a short-lived secret society in 18th century Bavaria, but over time, they've become this all-purpose boogeyman for people who believe in hidden agendas and shadowy elites that are controlling the world. It's crazy how powerful these narratives are, even when they're parodied.
Right. So are you saying every time we see a crazy headline or a political scandal, we wonder if it's just the Illuminati working on behalf of the lizard people, trying to distract us from the truth? Should we be looking for scaly footprints on the steps of the Capitol building?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. But it's interesting to think about how this theory plays on our very real concerns about media manipulation and the concentration of power. We live in a time of information overload. It's hard to tell what's true and what's not. It's understandable that people might be drawn to these narratives that offer a simple explanation for the world, even if they're about reptilian overlords.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how this all connects. We've got this ancient fear of hidden powers mixed with our modern anxieties about information control and political manipulation, all wrapped up in this fantastical package. It's a recipe for a pretty compelling, if totally bizarre, conspiracy theory.
Exactly, and it goes even further by suggesting that these lizard people, they actually feed off of human emotions, specifically fear, drama, and conflict. The more chaos and division they can cause, the more powerful they become.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty chilling, even if you don't believe in reptilian overlords. Wait, hold on. So you're saying that all those political debates and screaming heads on cable news, all the outrage and division online, it's all just lizard people food?
Think about it. When we're consumed by fear and anger, we don't think this critically. We're more likely to be manipulated, easier to control. Now, I'm not saying that. There's literally a reptilian council pulling the strings and feasting on our emotions. But it does raise some questions about how those emotions are exploited in the real world.
That's a pretty disturbing thought. Makes you look at the news cycle in a whole new way. It's are we being played? Are our own emotions being used against us?
It's a question we're thinking about, and that's what makes it so fascinating. It takes these abstract concepts like power and control and manipulation and turns them into this fantastical, almost comical idea. But beneath the surface, there are some very real and unsettling truths about us.
Okay. my mind is officially blown. So we've got ancient catacombs, shadowy elites, a dash of Illuminati, and a whole lot of social commentary, all mixed up in this wild theory. But there's more, right? This lizard people saga, it gets even weirder.
Oh yeah, you have no idea. Just wait till we get into the theories about lizard DNA and ancient technologies hidden in those underground layers. Things are going to get really interesting.
That's a pretty bleak thought. But it gets weirder, this essay says. That those catacombs under L.A., they're not just some random hideout. It's like this vast library filled with ancient texts and artifacts, with secrets to manipulating humanity. It's like the lizard people have this cheat sheet for controlling society, passed down for ages. Okay, now that's just creepy. It's like something out of Indiana Jones. Except instead of fighting Nazis for lost relics, we've got these reptilian overlords hoarding ancient knowledge to keep us all under their thumb. But why? What would they even want with all that information?
Well, think about it. Imagine having access to a historical record stretching back centuries, maybe millennia, you'd know about. The rise and fall of civilizations, the patterns of human behavior, the secrets of persuasion and control would be like a blueprint for manipulating society, understanding our weaknesses, and predicting what we'll do.
So not just power for power's sake. It's about having the knowledge to shape the world according to their agenda. But what about all those ancient texts? Where did they even come from?
That's where things get really interesting. Some theorists think those catacombs weren't even built by the lizard people. They think maybe it was an even older civilization, like maybe an extraterrestrial one, that left down this blueprint. For a society based on control and manipulation, the lizard people, in this theory, are just inheritors of this much older, more sinister system.
Okay, so now we're talking about ancient aliens. This is getting pretty out there, but I guess.
It's kind of a recurring theme in these conspiracy theories, this idea that there's some hidden knowledge, some secret history that's been deliberately concealed from us. It's like we're all searching for those missing pieces of the puzzle.
You're right. This idea of a lost library with forbidden knowledge has captivated people for centuries. Look at the legend of the Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest collections of knowledge, destroyed by fire. That loss still impacts us today. This feeling that there are truths out there, lost to time, or maybe deliberately hidden.
It's like that saying, we fear what we don't understand. And maybe that fear drives our fascination with conspiracy theories. We try to fill in the gaps to make sense of the world, which can feel chaotic and unpredictable. Conspiracy theories offer a sense of order, a narrative that connects the dots and explains complex events. And in a world where information is constantly manipulated and filtered, it makes sense that people might be skeptical of official narratives and look for alternative explanations, even if they're about reptilian overlords and ancient aliens.
Okay, so we've got ancient libraries, shadowy elites, a dash of Illuminati, and now we're adding ancient aliens to the mix. This is quite a conspiracy cocktail, but I have a feeling there's more. This lizard people saga wouldn't be complete without a little
modern technology paranoia, right?
You read my mind. This essay also explores how emerging technologies like biometrics and AI and constant data tracking might actually be helping the lizard people, the tools that are supposed to make our lives easier and more secure. Could also be used to monitor, manipulate, and control us.
Okay. That's hitting a little too close to home. We're also reliant on technology these days. It's hard not to think, are we just making ourselves more vulnerable to this kind of manipulation? That's the paradox of technology. It offers amazing opportunities and potential dangers. Think about facial recognition. It can be used to catch criminals, but it can also be used for mass surveillance or AI algorithms. They can personalize our online experience, but they can also create filter bubbles that reinforce our biases and limit what we see.
It's like we're constantly making these deals with technology, trading our privacy and autonomy for convenience and security.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe the lizard people are just watching as we walk right into their trap.
This essay doesn't shy away from that, the darker side of technology. It says we need to be more aware of how it can be misused, to ask questions about who controls these technologies and how they're being used.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new gadgets and apps. But we need to step back and think about the bigger picture. Who's benefiting from all this data collection? And who's really in control? Where do we even go from here?
Well, after going through all this, I think we need to step back and think about what it all means. You know, we said at the start that even the craziest theories can reflect real anxieties about power and control, the forces that shape our world.
Right, like it's a funhouse mirror to society.
Yeah.
Distorting things.
Yeah.
But revealing some uncomfortable truths. With all these wild details, though, I'm having trouble seeing the bigger picture.
I think you can look at this theory as a kind of cultural pressure valve. It lets people express their anxieties about complex issues in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
So instead of getting stuck in these serious debates about political manipulation or technology, we can laugh at how absurd it all is, while still recognizing the underlying concerns. It's like satire on the state of the world.
Exactly. It uses satire and exaggeration to highlight these uncomfortable truths about power and how we're manipulated, whether it's by elites or our own fears and biases.
And honestly, the idea of lizard people running things underground is kind of funny. Can you imagine those meetings in the catacombs? The power struggles within the lizard council itself.
The essay even talks about this, saying the lizard people might find it amusing, that we're trying to expose them. They know most people won't believe it, so they can operate in secret, while we're all distracted by how absurd it is.
So it's like they're in on the joke, which adds another layer of irony. That makes you think, are we giving these theories too much power for taking them seriously? Or are we missing the point entirely by just dismissing them as entertainment?
That's the challenge of dealing with these theories. On one hand, we need to be critical of misinformation and not get lost in all these unfounded claims, but we also can't just ignore them because they often reflect real anxieties and concerns that need to be addressed.
So how do we find that balance? How do we engage with these theories in a way that's both critical and productive?
I think it starts with understanding that people often turn to these theories because they want to understand the world, which can feel really complex and chaotic. People want simple explanations, clear narratives, a sense of control when things feel out of their control.
And when we don't have those explanations, we come up with our own stories.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. We need to be aware of our own biases, our tendency to look for patterns, even when they might not be there.
So, for our listeners, should we all be checking under our beds for scaly intruders?
I think the takeaway here is to be aware of the power of stories, the ones we tell ourselves, and the ones that are told to us. We need to be critical of information, question our assumptions, and be open to different perspectives.
And maybe we can learn to laugh at the absurdity without forgetting about the real anxieties that these theories represent.
Exactly. Even something like lizard people can teach us something about ourselves and the world. It reminds us to stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop searching for the truth, even if it's hidden underground in Los Angeles.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into the lizard people and U.S. elections. We hope you enjoyed this trip through conspiracy theories and social commentary. Remember, keep questioning, keep exploring. See you next time.